The wind howled through the narrow streets of the alien village. Carrying the icy touch of the night, Shara stood outside her family's home, trembling, her small hands clutching a thin piece of cloth around her shoulders. Her mother's voice was cold, sharper than the wind. "You are useless. Shara, you can't work, you can't fight, you can't even walk far without falling." Her father's shadow loomed behind. "We can't feed a burden. You slow us down, you make us weak." Shara's chest hurt, not from the cold, but from the words. They had said this before, but tonight, something was different. Her mother grabbed her arm and dragged her towards the edge of the village. The night outside was black, full of dangerous sounds. Shara's legs shook. "Please, don't leave me here," she whispered. Her father didn't even look at her. He turned his back as her mother pushed her forward. The ground beneath her feet was frozen dirt, rough and cold. Her bare toes stung with each step. They stopped where the light from the village ended. Beyond this point, the wasteland began. The wasteland was not just empty land, it was alive with predators, thieves, and death. Shara knew that those left here never came back. Her mother's eyes held no pity. "Survive if you can, but don't return. We will not take you back." She shoved Shara into the darkness and walked away without looking back. The sound of their footsteps faded, leaving only the wind and Shara's shaky breath. She stood frozen, hugging herself. The wasteland stretched before her, black and endless. Her breath made small clouds in the air. Her mind screamed to move, but her body refused. A low growl came from somewhere nearby. Her heart jumped. She stumbled backward, eyes scanning the shadows. Two glowing eyes appeared in the dark. Her pulse raced. The stories about night beasts flooded her mind. She tried to run, but her legs were too weak. Her knees hit the cold ground, pain shooting up her legs. The glowing eyes moved closer, slow and steady. Shara closed her eyes, waiting for teeth and claws. But instead, a beam of light hit her face. She blinked, confused. It wasn't a beast, it was something else. The shape stepped closer. The light came from a strange object held in a gloved hand. The figure's head had a smooth, clear surface reflecting the beam. A helmet. It spoke. The voice deep but strange. "You're freezing. Can you stand?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. The figure crouched, pulling something from its pack, wrapping it around her shoulders. The warmth shocked her. The smell was different. Clean, warm, human. She had heard of humans before, but her people said they were dangerous, unpredictable. This one's eyes, visible through the helmet glass, were calm, watching her closely. "Come on," he said, gently pulling her up. "It's not safe here." She didn't understand why, but she let him guide her. Each step away from the village felt strange, as if she was crossing into another world. She glanced back once. The village was gone behind the black night. Only the human's light cut through the darkness now. Her legs gave out again, and he lifted her easily, carrying her against his chest. The sound of his heartbeat was steady. She tried to speak. "Why? Why are you helping me?" He looked down briefly. "Because you need help." Her own kind had called her a burden, but this human, a stranger, didn't hesitate. Her eyelids grew heavy as the cold faded into warmth in her last moments before sleep, she thought. Maybe not everyone saw her as worthless. Maybe this night would not be the end, but the beginning. Shara woke to the sound of crackling for a moment. She thought she was still in the wasteland, but the warmth on her skin told her otherwise. Her eyes opened slowly. She was lying on a bedroll, inside a small shelter made of metal and fabric. The smell of cooked food filled the air, making her stomach twist in hunger. Across the fire, the human sat, turning something in a pan. His helmet was off now, revealing short dark hair and eyes that were sharp yet calm. He noticed her awake and spoke. "You're up." His voice was deep, carrying an accent she didn't know. Shara pushed herself up. The blanket sliding off her shoulders, her legs still felt heavy. The human reached beside him and handed her a small cup. Steam rose from it. "Drink, it's warm." She hesitated, staring at the strange container. Her people always warned her never accept food from outsiders, but her body betrayed her. Hands trembling as she took the cup, the liquid was strange but soothing. It burned her tongue slightly, but she didn't care. The warmth spread through her chest. The human watched her but didn't push her to speak. Instead, he turned back to his cooking. Shara's eyes wandered around the shelter. There were bags, strange tools, and glowing devices she couldn't name. Everything looked worn, as if it had survived many journeys. Finally, she found her voice. "Why?" The human glanced at her. "Why? What? Why? Help me," she asked softly. His hand paused over the pan. He leaned back slightly, looking at her as if searching for the right words. "Because you are going to die," he said simply. "And I don't like watching someone die when I can stop it." She frowned. "But I'm a burden." The word felt heavy, like a stone in her mouth. He shook his head. "Not to me." A strange silence filled the shelter. Outside, the wind howled. The human's gaze shifted to the door flap, his eyes narrowing. Shara followed. His glance unfroze. There were shadows moving outside, tall, broad shapes. A muffled voice called out in her language. Her chest tightened. She knew that voice. It was her uncle. He had never been kind to her. Her stomach dropped as she realized why they might be here. Her own people had come, but not to save her, to finish what they started. The human put a finger to his lips. He moved quietly, grabbing a small metallic object from his belt. It unfolded into something she recognized from stories. A human weapon. Her pulse quickened. The shadows stopped near the shelter. One of them sniffed the air like a predator. The human leaned close to her ear, whispering, "Do you trust me?" She hesitated for only a second, then nodded. He motioned toward the back of the shelter. There was a narrow exit covered by cloth. Almost hidden, they moved silently. Shara's bare feet made no sound on the ground. Every step felt like a heartbeat. She heard the front flap move, voices entering the shelter. But they slipped out the back into the cold night. The human led her between jagged rocks, crouching low. The shadows behind them grew smaller. But she knew they wouldn't stop searching. Her people believed weakness was a stain. They wouldn't let her live if she had been cast out. They stopped in a small hollow between boulders. The human finally spoke. "We can't stay near your village. We need to move far, far away." Shara hugged herself. "They'll follow me forever. Then I'll make sure they never catch you," he said firmly. She stared at him in the dim light. Something inside her shifted for the first time. In her life, someone had chosen to stand with her, not against her, and that someone wasn't even her own kind. But in the distance, a howl echoed. The human's jaw tightened. "That's not them," he said. "That's something worse." He handed her a small, strange light to hold. "Stay close to me, no matter what happens." Shara gripped the light. Her fingers cold but steady. Her old life was gone, and whatever waited in the dark ahead, she would face it with him. The cold night stretched endlessly around them. The only light came from the small beam in Shara's hand and the dim glow from the human's device. Every step felt heavier, the ground uneven and sharp beneath her bare feet. Behind them, the shadows of her people were gone, but the sound of something else was rising, a low, deep rumble in the distance. It wasn't the wind, it was alive. The human glanced over his shoulder, his jaw set. "We need to move faster," he said. His voice low but firm. Shara stumbled to keep up, her thin frame shaking in the cold. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Not friendly," he replied without looking back. She didn't ask again. She could already feel it. The air seemed heavier, and the ground trembled slightly with each distant sound. They reached the edge of a ridge. The human crouched and peered over, far below. The wasteland stretched into a dark valley filled with jagged rocks and thorny plants. The only safe way down was a narrow path hugging the cliffside. "Careful," he murmured, guiding her to the start of the path. The wind was stronger here, tugging at her hair and making the shadows dance. Halfway down, the sound behind them grew louder. Shara risked a glance back. Her heart froze. Figures were moving fast across the ridge they had just left. Not beasts this time. Her people. Her uncle was among them, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. Even from here, she could see the cold satisfaction on his face. "They found us," she gasped. The human's expression didn't change, but his grip on her arm tightened. "Then we keep moving." The path twisted downward, but loose stones slid under their feet. One wrong step could send them falling into the valley. Shara's breath came in short bursts. The human's hand was steady, guiding her carefully. A shout rang out from above her. Uncle's voice. Filled with command, the others began climbing down after them. Faster than she expected, she felt her legs weaken. "They're faster than us," she said in panic. The human glanced at her, not smarter. At the base of the path, they ran across the valley floor, weaving between the jagged rocks. The human kept scanning their surroundings. Shara heard the sound of the chasers drawing closer. Then, from the shadows ahead, a shape moved. Her heart skipped. It wasn't one of her people. It was huge, its body covered in dark, scaled skin. Its eyes glowed faintly, its breath misting in the cold air. A predator. Drawn by the noise, the human stopped suddenly, pulling Shara behind a rock. The hunters above shouted again. They had seen the creature too. Shara trembled, her mind screaming that they were trapped. But the human leaned close and whispered, "Stay low." He picked up a loose stone and tossed it far to the right. The creature's head snapped toward the sound, its body tensing. It moved toward the noise, away from them. The human didn't wait. He grabbed her hand and pulled her in the opposite direction. They ran until Shara's lungs burned. Her legs felt like they would give out at any moment. The sounds of pursuit faded slightly. But they weren't gone. Finally, the human slowed and led her into a narrow gap between two cliffs. It was just wide enough for them to squeeze through. The space opened into a hidden hollow, sheltered from the wind. Here, they could rest at least for a moment. Shara collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. Her whole body ached. The human crouched beside her, scanning the entrance. "They'll keep hunting," she said weakly. He nodded. "I know." She looked at him, confused. "Then why don't you leave me? You could get away faster." His gaze softened for a moment. "Because I'm not leaving you." "Shara, that's not who I am." Her chest tightened. She didn't understand him. Humans were supposed to think of themselves first, but he had risked his life again and again for her. Somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of hope began to grow. Yet, before she could say anything, a faint crunch of footsteps echoed from the entrance. The human's head snapped toward the sound. The chase wasn't over yet. The footsteps outside the hollow grew louder. Shara's heart pounded in her ears. The human held up his hand, signaling her to stay quiet. He moved slowly toward the narrow entrance, his weapon ready. For a moment, the shadow of a tall figure appeared, but then it passed by. The crunching of footsteps faded into the distance. Shara let out a shaky breath. "They're still searching." The human whispered, "But they don't know we're here." Yet, the hollow felt safe for the moment, but the air was freezing. The human glanced up at the cliff walls. "This place won't protect us for long. We need to reach the safe zone before dawn." Shara tilted her head. "Safe zone?" He nodded. "A human settlement, high walls, guards, supplies, and no one there will hurt you. Her chest tightened. She had never been anywhere truly safe before. Her people didn't believe in protecting the weak. It felt almost impossible. To imagine, they slipped out of the hollow carefully. The wind cut across the valley. Carrying the distant calls of her people, the human moved with purpose, checking his small device that glowed faintly in his hand. Shara followed, her bare feet numb. Every few steps, she looked over her shoulder. The fear of seeing her uncle's face again never left her. Hours passed as they crossed the wasteland. The human offered her food and water when they stopped too. Rest. The food tasted strange but filled her stomach. She studied his hands as he worked, scarred, calloused, strong. Yet his touch when helping her walk was always gentle. It made her wonder what kind of life he had before finding her. You? Fight like a warrior, she said quietly. He smirked slightly. Not always. Sometimes I run to share a frown. Running is seen as weakness in my world. Then your world is wrong, he said, without hesitation. Living to fight another day isn't weakness, it's survival. His words stayed in her mind as they walked. Could it be that strength wasn't just about muscle or speed? The horizon began to glow faintly, the first sign of morning. The human's pace quickened, but then the wind shifted. Carrying a smell that made her stomach twist, it was thick, sharp, and wrong. The human froze from the dunes ahead. Movement? Stirred, Shara squinted. Shapes emerged from the sand, moving low and fast. Not her people this time, but predators. Their long limbs and sharp jaws glistened in the weak light. They're hunting, the human muttered. He glanced around and spotted a line of large boulders. Stay behind me, he said, pulling her toward them. The creatures' heads turned in unison toward the movement. Their hiss-like calls filled the air. One leaped forward, closing the distance in seconds. The human raised his weapon, a sharp beam of light slicing through the air. The creature shrieked and skidded back, its body smoking, but more were coming. Surrounding them, Shara's legs shook as the human fired again, forcing two more to retreat, but they were outnumbered. The creatures moved with terrifying speed, climbing over rocks, their claws scraping stone. The human grabbed her hand, pulling her between the boulders. They weaved through the tight spaces, forcing the predators to slow. One lunged, jaws snapping inches from Shara's shoulder. She stumbled, but the human yanked her upright without. Missing a step, they burst out from the boulder field into open ground. Ahead, she saw it, a faint metal shape rising from the land. The safe zone's walls, relief surged through her, but behind them, the predators still followed, their calls sharper now. The human's steps didn't slow. Shara's breath burned her throat, her body screaming in exhaustion. Yet she kept going, the sight of those walls pulling her forward, finally. Distant shouts came from the wall, human voices calling out. Figures appeared on top, raising weapons. The predators hissed and stopped, sensing danger. They melted back into the wasteland as the gates creaked open. Shara stumbled inside, the human steadying her with one arm for the first time. She was somewhere her own people couldn't reach her. But as the gates closed behind them, Shara realized her journey wasn't over. Because sometimes, the most dangerous wounds weren't on the body, they were inside the heart, and she didn't know yet if even the safe zone could heal those. The gates of the safe zone closed with a deep, echoing thud. Shara leaned against the wall, her body trembling from exhaustion. For the first time in her life, she felt a small measure of safety. The human, whose name she still didn't know, gave her a water canteen. She drank greedily, the cool liquid washing away the dry ache in her throat. The humans at the gate looked curious, their eyes shifting between her and the man who had brought her. One of them stepped forward. "Captain, who is she?" The human glanced at Shara, then back at the guard. "A refugee. She's with me." The guard nodded slowly, but didn't ask more questions. It was clear the man had authority here. They led her through the settlement. Small metal buildings. Watchtowers and fences lined with lights everywhere. Humans worked, carried supplies, and kept watch on the wasteland. Shara felt strange walking among them. They didn't stare at her the way her own people did. There was no disgust in their eyes, only curiosity, for a moment. She let herself believe she might be able to stay. Here, the human brought her to a small shelter near the center of the safe zone. Inside, it was simple but warm. A bed, a table, and a heater humming softly. "This is yours for now," he said. "Rest. I'll bring food later." She hesitated. Before speaking, "Why do you help me? You don't even know me." He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "I don't need to know you to see that you deserve a chance." His words made something deep in her chest ache. She lay on the bed, trying to sleep, but the sounds of the settlement outside kept her awake. Footsteps, voices, machinery. Then she heard something else. A faint rumble, deep and slow. She sat up, listening. The rumble grew louder, joined by a heavy thud that shook the floor. Shara's heart pounded as shouts erupted outside. The door burst open. The human rushed in, weapon in hand. "Stay inside and don't move," he ordered. But before she could answer, a roar split the air. The walls seemed to shake, dust falling from the ceiling. The human's eyes narrowed. "Beast," he muttered. He turned and ran outside, leaving the door open. Shara moved to the doorway. Her eyes widened at the sight. A massive creature stood just beyond the outer fence, taller than any building. In the safe zone, its body was covered in thick, black, armor-like scales. 4 eyes glowed red in the morning light. It slammed its clawed hands against the fence, bending the metal. Humans on the wall fired at it. But their shots only made it angrier. The human who had saved her was already at the front line. Shouting orders, he moved with speed and precision, his weapon firing in bursts. The beast roared again, swiping at the wall. The force sent one guard flying into the dirt. Without hesitation, the human ran forward, positioning himself between the beast and the fallen guard. He fired point blank at the creature's eyes. One eye burst, and the beast shrieked, staggering back. Shara's breath caught. He was small compared to the monster. But he didn't back down. The beast lunged again, smashing part of the wall through the gap. It forced its head inside, snapping its jaws. The human rolled aside just in time, slashing at its exposed neck with a glowing blade. The wound wasn't fatal, but it slowed the beast's movements. More humans joined the fight, surrounding the creature. They moved as a unit, following the captain's commands. Shara could see it now. He wasn't just a wanderer who had found her in the wasteland. He was a leader, trusted by everyone. Here, and he was risking his life again, just as he had for her. Finally, with one last deafening roar, the beast turned and retreated into the wasteland. The humans cheered, relief flooding the air. The captain, her human, lowered his weapon and looked toward her shelter. Even from this distance, she could see the exhaustion on his face. But he smiled faintly, as if to say, "It's all right now." Shara stepped out of the doorway. She didn't know why, but her legs carried her toward him. When she reached him, she whispered, "You fought for all of them." "Just like you fought for me," he shrugged. "That's what we do here. We protect each other." Her voice trembled. "No one's ever said that to me before." He looked at her with a steady gaze. "Then you've been living in the wrong place." The safe zone was quiet after the beast attack. Guards repaired the damaged wall, and people returned to their duties. Shara stayed inside her shelter, but her mind wasn't calm. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the glowing red eyes of the beast and the human captain standing between it and the people. She didn't understand why he risked so much for others in her world. No one did that without expecting something in return. That night, she couldn't sleep. The wind outside carried strange sounds, whispers, footsteps, the faint clink of metal. She sat up, her skin prickling. Then she heard it, a voice speaking in her own language. Her blood ran cold, cautiously. She moved to the window and peeked through the small slit, outside, in the shadows beyond the fence. Shapes moved, familiar shapes. Her people, her uncle stood at the front, his broad shoulders casting a dark outline. Even from here, she could see the cruel curve of his mouth. They had come for her. She backed away from the window, her chest tight. How had they found her? She had believed the walls would keep her safe, but now she wasn't so sure. The door to her shelter opened silently. It was the human captain, his expression tense. "They're here for you," he said quietly. Her voice shook the walls. "They'll try to get through, maybe bribe or threaten their way past the guards." He interrupted. "We need to move before they make their move." She swallowed hard. "You should leave me. I'm not worth this." His jaw tightened. "Don't say that again. We're getting you out." He handed her a thick cloak. "Cover yourself. Follow me." They slipped into the night, moving along the back streets of the safe zone. The settlement seemed peaceful, but Shara knew danger was closing in. Every step brought them closer to the gate on the far side. A smaller, less guarded exit. If they could slip through and reach the mountain pass, they might lose her pursuers halfway. There, a figure stepped out from the shadows, blocking their path. It was one of her people, a cousin. His eyes cold, going somewhere. He asked in their language, his hand resting on a blade. The captain stepped forward, placing himself between Shara and the man. "We're not looking for trouble," he said firmly. The cousin smirked. "Then hand her over and walk away. Human, this is family business." The captain's eyes didn't waver. "She's under my protection." The cousin's smile faded, his grip tightening on the weapon. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then steel flashed. The cousin lunged. The captain moved faster, deflecting the strike and sending the man sprawling with a single blow. "Move," he ordered Shara. And they ran. They reached the small gate, but before they could pass through, shouts rang out behind them. Her uncle and several others had spotted them. Torches lit the dark, casting long, menacing shadows. "Shara." Her uncle's voice boomed. "Come back now, and maybe I'll let you live." She froze for half a second. Those words were the same ones he had spoken years ago to another girl in their clan. That girl had returned, and she had not survived. The captain gripped her arm, snapping her back to the present. "We don't have time," he said, his voice urgent. They pushed through the gate into the open night. The cold air hit them like a wall. They ran toward the mountain path, the sound of pursuit growing louder. Her people knew the land. They would catch up soon. The path narrowed as they climbed. Moonlight bathed the rocks in pale silver. Her breath came in sharp gasps, her legs burning. The captain glanced back, then stopped suddenly. He turned to face the way they had come, weapon ready. Shara's eyes widened. "You can't fight them all." He met her gaze. "I can hold them off long enough for you to get away." She shook her head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." The torches were close now, voices echoing in the narrow pass. Her uncle's shadow appeared first, his blade gleaming. The captain stepped forward, his stance unshakable. Shara moved to stand beside him. Her voice was steady now. "If they want me, they'll have to go through both of us." The narrow mountain pass echoed with the sound of boots and blades. Shara's uncle stepped into the pale moonlight, his eyes hard and full of hate. Behind him, half a dozen of her people fanned out, weapons ready. The wind howled through the rocks, carrying the bitter scent of the wasteland. You think you can hide behind a human." Her uncle sneered. His voice was cold, each word sharp as a blade. "You've always been weak, Shara, and weakness has no place in our bloodline." Shara's stomach twisted. Those words had followed her since childhood. But tonight, something in her had changed. She wasn't the same girl they had thrown away. The captain stepped forward, his body shielding her. "She's under my protection," he said evenly, his voice carrying through the pass. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Her uncle laughed, a deep, cruel sound, one human against all of us. "You'll die before your weapon runs dry." The captain's grip tightened on his blade. "Maybe, but I'll make sure none of you leave here standing." The air was tense, like the moment before a storm. The first of her people lunged. Blade raised, the captain sidestepped, his weapon flashing, sending the attacker sprawling into the dust. Another came from the left, and Shara, without thinking, swung a heavy rock from the ground. The impact knocked the warrior back, his weapon clattering away. Her uncle's smile faltered. "You?" he growled. "You think you can fight?" Shara's voice was steady now. "I don't just think, I know." It wasn't bravado, it was truth. She had been weak once, but not anymore. The fight turned fast and brutal. Blades clashed, sparks flying in the moonlight. The captain moved like water, each strike precise. Shara stayed close, blocking blows meant for him, throwing stones, kicking when enemies got too near. Every moment they fought side by side made her feel stronger. Not because she was the fastest or the strongest, but because she refused to give up. One of her cousins managed to slip past and grab her arm. She twisted, trying to break free before he could drag her away. The captain's blade cut the air between them, forcing him to release her. "You all right?" he asked quickly. She nodded, her breath heavy. "Not leaving you." The fight slowed as more of her people fell back, bruised and beaten. Her uncle stood alone now, glaring at them both. "This changes nothing," he spat. "You'll always be the outcast, Shara. No human can change that." She stepped forward before the captain could speak. Her voice cut through the cold air. "You're wrong. I'm not a burden, I'm not worthless, and I'm not yours to control anymore." Her uncle's eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. "This human saved me when you left me to die. He sees value in me when you saw nothing. That's the difference between you and him." The captain stood silently beside her, letting her words strike deeper than any blade. For a long moment, the mountain pass was silent, except for the wind. Finally, her uncle turned away with a scowl, signaling the others to retreat. They disappeared into the shadows, their footsteps fading. Only then did Shara let out the breath she'd been holding. The captain sheathed his weapon and looked at her with a faint smile. "You did more than hold your ground. You proved them wrong." Shara's chest tightened. For years, she had dreamed of saying those words, but tonight, she had lived them. Her eyes stung. But she didn't look away. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not just for saving me, but for believing in me when no one else did." He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe me thanks. Just live. Live in a way that shows them they were wrong about you." They began the slow walk back toward the safe zone, the moonlight guiding their path. Shara glanced at him, her steps lighter despite her exhaustion. In her heart, she knew this wasn't just the end of her old life. It was the start of a new one where she wasn't a burden, one where she belonged. And as they walked side by side through the cold night, she thought, maybe this human hadn't just saved her life. Maybe he had given her a reason to live it.